Welcome back to No More Late Fees. This week, we are joined by a director who helped define the look and feel of 90s and early 2000s pop culture on screen, from unforgettable music videos to some of the most iconic Mary-Kate and Ashley movies of all time. Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Danielle, and we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of the best and worst movies of the late 90s and early 2000s. This week, we are joined by director, producer, and editor Steve Purcell. Whether you first saw his work through a Tevin Campbell slow jam or fell in love with his dreamy Bahamas backdrop in Holiday in the Sun, Steve has been quietly shaping our nostalgia, and today we get to talk to him about it all. So get cozy because this is going to be a fun one.
I don't know what I was talking. What I was going to say is that the fact that Gloria, she gives me this video, and which was their wedding video, and then about, and she shot herself doing it, and then she shot her giving it to me, and then me reacting to it, and then about a week or so later, she said, "So it's gotten quite a few views on TikTok," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then it's like we saw Colin and Gloria the other day on Saturday. And I said, "So where is it now?" She says, "I don't know, it's got like 85,000 views." And I'm like, how does that even happen? And then People Magazine has reached out, we meet you guys, and it's just like, so what you can do with social media today is pretty remarkable. It's, you know.
It's so cool. First of all, we're so glad and happy.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve, for joining us on the show. You're making a lot of millennial Gen Zers happy right now. But like you were saying, the way that we weren't hip to your game, Steve, and I apologize in advance. Once I saw that TikTok, I was like, "Oh my God, this man is a legend. We have to see if he'll
You have
be
no
on the
idea what a
show."
legend I am. No, I'm kidding. I had no idea I was a legend.
You are a legend. But yes, your daughter-in-law, Gloria, when she posted this really cool video about changing the DVD covers of her wedding video to give to you, her father-in-law, and she's like, "Well, my father-in-law directed Mary-Kate and Ashley movies, and she changed When in Rome." And I was like, "Oh my God, that is so cool." And when you were on screen, I just took a shot and said, "Hey," in the comments, "We'd love to have him on the show." And when you responded, I was like, "Oh my God, Jackie, it's happening."
That's funny. Well, I'm thrilled to be on it, and it's one of those things that when you do something, for any of us, you do something and it's 20 years ago or whatever, you kind of forget about it, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden to have this resurgence. And one of the things, I recently went to my 50th high school reunion, and I think if you're a woman and you're probably between the age of like, I don't know, 38 to 41 or something like that. This was sort of in the sweet spot of what you would watch when you're growing up. And literally, I went to my high school reunion, and people that I went to school with, they came up to me and they said, "You have to do me a favor. Can you take a picture with me? Because my daughter said," and I'm like, "What is this about?" Anyway, it's kind of a fun thing because you forget about the things you work on, and to have. And when I looked at the TikTok thing, I mean, the comments were, it's amazing, and it's not that I was a part of it, but just that the impact that shows can have on people, and when you're growing up, and the things that people were saying about the influence that these films had on their youth and growing up and giving them values and all that stuff. It's kind of a fun thing. So
It is amazing, and your career is amazing. So as we talk about 90s and 2000s, and you have a lot of things on your resume that fit right into that sweet spot. So we're gonna dive in, see if you could bring us back to that time in your journey.
So, how did you first get into directing and what drew you to visual storytelling?
when I was, I don't know, when I was 10 years old, my mother gave me a camera, a still camera. And it was just one of those things that I think is when we're all growing up, we latch onto certain things that we really that mean something to us and we don't really assess why. But I always loved photography. And then I kind of got to a point where I thought, well, when I got to my 20s, I thought, well, maybe I can be a photographer. But then I thought, well, if I don't really excel at it, then I'm going to be doing wedding videos on the weekend and stuff like that. So sort of I'll compress the process. But I got a job with a post-production company, which is a company that does editorial work, edits television shows and things like that. And really it was a time when technology, there were a lot of editors that were still editing on film, and this is when computerized editing started to take over. So I kind of figured out, well, if I learn how to run the computers, then I can sit with producers and I can edit, and I can learn to edit from them because I learned to run the computer. So really for me, it was just I kind of got my foot in the door in the business, and then I would continually look at like what the next rung on the ladder is going to be. And
Right.
it wasn't, and so one of the things about this business is that there's tremendous opportunities, and you can be a hair and makeup person, you can be a stylist, you can be an editor, a director, a cameraman. And so once you kind of get in, you start looking at what other people are doing and you start saying, well, that could be interesting. And I'm not really answering your question about the 90s, but
Yeah.
No,
um,
it's okay. We just want to know your
but
journey. Yeah.
but that's really sort of the beauty of this business is it seems like there's a lot of careers where you become an engineer or you become a dentist and that's what you do. Television and film is not that way. And you do learn certain things in school, but it's a journey. And everybody who's in it, it's a journey. And it doesn't matter if I went from being an editor to becoming a director to becoming a producer to becoming my own production company. And you just continue to grow and you keep looking for new challenges. And so back to the 90s, I was editing local talk shows in Los Angeles, and MTV happened. And so I started getting some music videos. And sort of at the time, I thought, you know what, if I can edit a music video, I'm done. My career, I fulfilled my dream.
Mhm.
I've edited a music video, and so I started editing some music videos for various acts, and the artists were figuring it out as well. No one really
Right.
knew what they were doing, but in some of the I found myself editing music videos for people like Prince, Fleetwood Mac, Paul McCartney, Elton John, those and they were big and the artists didn't really know what they were doing yet either, and there'd be a director that would come in and direct them, and some of them were very talented, the David Finchers and the Michael Bays and those people, but then there were directors that were not as talented. And so I started really thinking, okay, well, I'm not David Fincher, but maybe I could do as good a job as somebody else.
Right.
So then I started leveraging, I had a really good following as an editor. People liked what I was doing. And so you get more of it. And when you're
Yeah.
doing something, you get more of it. So I went to some of my clients and really I went to Prince and I said, look, I'll keep editing for you, but I want to direct something for you. And so he said, okay. And so he had a band at the time called Madhouse, which was his band without him in it. It was kind of and so I directed some videos for them. And then I directed a video for him, which is called Glam Slam. And I don't know how a lot of people saw him, but he was blindfolded. He
Yeah.
blindfolded himself. Okay. So what happened with that is then so people thought, well, if he's directing stuff for Prince, he must know what he's doing, which I didn't. But I'll take the credit. But I mean, I can go off on a million tangents here, but that's so then I start editing and then I start directing for Prince and directing for really a lot of the people that I was editing for. And really, this is kind of going back to what I was talking about before, is that you kind of look for opportunities. And I had edited everything. I worked on Flatliners. I worked on a lot of Joel Schumacher movies. So you just as a director, I kind of went back to all my clients and I started doing, at the time, I was doing exercise videos. I was doing infomercials. I was doing Mary-Kate and Ashley movies. I was doing concerts. I was doing music videos. And you build this circle of clients. And one of the things that you also do is, for whatever client, at least for me, whatever client I was working with, I would always have to be somewhat chameleon-like, in that
Yeah.
if I'm working for Disney and I'm doing theme park specials, they would do specials that would promote the theme park. So
Right.
the family would watch it at Christmas time and then everybody go in the summertime. Well, if I'm working with Disney, I'm a certain person when I come into the room. If
Yeah.
I'm working with Fleetwood Mac or a Lindsey Buckingham, I'm a different person when I come in the room. And Lindsey Buckingham does not want to know that I'm working for Disney, and Disney has no interest that I'm working for Lindsey
Right.
Buckingham. So you have to be this kind of person that you become everyman to the different
Yeah.
peoples. Yeah.
So your music videos work spans so many different genres. You talked about some of the people you've worked with. You've also worked with Tevin Campbell, Monica, Blink 182, Eric Clapton, and Alanis Morissette. What was the vibe on the music video sets? Especially, like, I think once you started getting to the late 90s, people started to have a little bit more vision as to what they wanted to start doing. What was that like in that experience?
Well, true. Initially, music videos, like, no one, the artists, they may never even been on a set before. So what starts to happen is artists, what I always felt was interesting is, really, artists are no different than any of us. We're all the
Right.
same.
Right.
So artists, what they do is they try and decide, well, here's who I'm going to be for my audience. And that's not necessarily who they are in real life.
Right.
So what you had to do is you had to sort of get into their head and go like, okay, well, if you're Alanis, you're going to have this certain image. You're going to have the long hair. You're going to be kind of a hippie type person. You're going to be
Mhm.
speaking to a certain audience. If you're Prince, you're only going to be seen a certain way. You're only going to be seen dressed a certain way and stuff like that. So they started to really understand that. So it actually became easier because you could talk creatively with them and actually give input as to what, if you really understood who they were trying to be, then you could give them input as to the decisions that were being made. They kind of, or if they thought this is how I should dress, you could come to them and say, I agree with that, or I disagree with that, and here's why I disagree. And that's one of the things that I think I always really tried to do, is just deal with them like everybody else on the crew, because when you're doing a production, everybody has a job to do,
Right.
and they happen to be the ones that are seen behind the camera, but they traditionally have a whole bunch of people that are just telling them how great they are. And I think one of the things that I always felt was really important is just be really straight and just go, that's great, or I'm not sure if that's great, and here's why. And so you build this level of trust, and everybody comes together and works, and it's a team.
Yeah.
It's like a baseball team. You can't play baseball with just a shortstop. You need to have everybody. And so I always kind of dealt with everybody on the same level. I don't know if
I
that answers your question.
No, it did, but I honestly cannot even imagine telling Prince anything but yes because it's Prince. So
But the person that he was very calculated. Like, at very early
Mhm.
stages of his career, he wouldn't do interviews and stuff like that. But one-on-one, he's very smart, and he would do things. He wanted to create this mystique, and that was part of the way he dressed, and this whole thing, that he knew what he was creating. Like, in
Right.
his clothes, he'd always be seen the same way. Well, he never had pockets in any of his clothes, which
oh
is
wow.
being is that there's always somebody who has the car and all that stuff. And
Mhm.
there's a just I don't know if we want to go off on that tangent, on Prince tangent, but there's things that he would do where he would want to shoot like a behind the scenes or a day in the life. And if that happened, it would be 35 millimeter film, lights, whole big stage thing. Well, he wanted me to do sort of a behind the scenes for him when he went to Japan. And so, but this was just myself, cameraman, sound guy, very low key. And
Mhm.
so we did things where we just followed him. We followed him backstage. We just followed him around, but it was very sort of like today, it was like you're shooting with an iPhone.
Yeah.
So we did one thing that, and this sort of speaks to how he tried to always keep the mystery. So we were on the bullet train, and I went up to him and I started just asking him questions about the tour, about what we were going to be doing and where we were going and all that stuff, and really straight ahead questions. And he answered the questions, which was kind of rare that would do that. Then he came back to me about 5 minutes later with a list of questions that had nothing to do with the answers that he had just given. And he had me take these questions, and the camera turns around. Now it's shooting me. And I'm asking these questions. And the thought was I would ask some random question about, like, what do you think about the weather today? And then he would then want to take one of these answers that had nothing to do with the question and cut them together just to get people to go like, what is happening here? But that was kind of how he was always looking for a way to create mystery or to throw people off and stuff like that. So again, I'm not sure if that was your question, but
No, that's so cool.
but there's a lot of, and then we did things when we were on the bullet train where he wanted to reenact things like he had seen the Beatles do. Like he would do this thing where he'd say, okay, I'm going to go. He had, a car or whatever it was on the train. And he says, okay, I'm going to, I'm going to look out the window. I'm going to look out this little curtain and I'm going to look. And then you guys see me. And then you guys go down the hall. And then I'm going to run. And I'm going to run down the bullet train. And then you guys chase me. And it was this whole sort of stage thing. And we're like, okay, that sounds fun. Let's just, but always thinking about how to be unique, how to be different, and what was true to his image with audience.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of those.
Yeah. So you had mentioned working with Atlantis, and you did Atlantis Unplugged. So what was it like working with Atlantis on something so stripped down and intimate compared to your other more like glossy music video work?
Well, Atlantis, she was just getting started too. I mean, she didn't really, this was really when Jagged Little Pill had just come out. So I was kind of brought in by her management, who actually they managed Prince. And so then they started managing Atlantis. So they brought me in, and I met her and she was like, I remember when we met, she came in with a spiral notebook and we just kind of sat down and she was taking notes, and it was like, okay, then we were going to go from there to go. And we shot this concert in New Orleans and spent a lot of time with her. And this was really kind of the first big thing she had done. And we shot this concert down in New Orleans, and then we spent probably 3 or 4 months in the editing room together. And it was interesting to watch her go from being this. I think when I met her, she was like living in a little apartment. And then by the time this was done, and we had shot this concert, and she had gone around the world and stuff, it's like everybody in the world knew her. And watching a person go from people knew who she was, but that she exploded.
Yeah.
And talking with a person while they were going through that, and kind of watching, because a lot of times when you deal with certain artists, they've already been established and they've got a team in place and they got publicists and all that. So this was growing, and actually watching a person go from somewhat of obscurity. I mean, she was known up in Canada, but to becoming this other person was really interesting, because you don't usually get to see that. So
yeah. Well, I know that entire Unplugged when I think about Unplugged, there's only a few that stick with me even today. And there's the Nirvana one, and the Atlantis one for sure was one of the ones that I always remember, because like you said, she really blew up. It was Atlantis everything at that point. That entire album, no skips. It was great.
yeah. And she's a great person. She's very smart, and she was figuring it out as well, but it was really, no, she was great to work with. So
Well, we have to talk about your work with Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. You directed When in Rome, Getting There, Holiday in the Sun, and you're invited to Mary-Kate and Ashley's school dance party, which, by the way, has one of the most GIF meme memeable, like there's a scene of them dancing in the hallway that people use on the internet like crazy from that movie. Literally, their movies are like sacred text to so many generations. And right now, you can't even stream them. Like, you cannot find a Mary-Kate and Ashley movie if you don't have it on DVD or VHS. So, how did you get involved in directing their films? How did that end so many of them?
Yeah, well, one of the things, at least that's sort of happened for me in this business, is you have relationships with people, you meet people and in various capacities. And if you do a decent job, they hire you back. And
Right.
there was a producer that I'd worked with in on previous projects. His name is Neil Steinberg, and he Mary Kate and Ashley were kind of at a transition in their career where they had gone from being just these little girls to they started feeling like, okay, they're going to start having boyfriends in these movies, and they're transitioning. And so because I was this music video guy, they thought, well, Steve could be a good he knows how to deal with an older image of these girls. Whether I did or not, who knows? But in any event, that's how I got it. So I worked on the school dance party, and then I started doing the movies, and it was again, it's I think it's like anything that you do. If you do a decent job at it and you do the job, then you get called back. So yeah, I did Holiday in the Sun, and I really figured that was for me, that was a different kind of directing because I had done concerts where you have 10 cameras or you do music videos and it's just you're creating an art piece. But directing a movie is a different thing. You may have 50 people that are working with you. You traditionally have one camera.
Right.
And so if you're it was, but I had a strong editorial background. So it would be like for any scene that you shoot, you have basically the process is you have the script, but for any scene that you shoot, you sit down with the girls, Mary Kate and Ashley, and the director of photography, and you kind of like say if it's in this room, it's like you say, okay, you guys are going to walk in the door, you're going to stand in the middle of the room, someone else is going to come in and talk to you, and you kind of rehearse it, then everybody sees what needs to be done, and then everybody goes to work. And the
Right.
wardrobe people say, okay, this is what you're going to wear, and this is how it's going to be lit. And then you come back and you shoot it. And then you have to shoot all the bits and pieces. Like you have to shoot a wide version of the room so you know where they are, but then you need to shoot close-ups of both of them so that editorially you can put the whole thing together. Again, I'm not I'm not really sure I'm listening to your questions because I'm just going
Good.
off. It's like I'm
No,
just
you're
talking about
fine.
something.
No,
You
welcome
clearly
to the No More Late Fees podcast. We go on tangents all the time. So
no,
you
Yeah,
it's
so
right in line.
it's great. Like honestly, you're giving us more than we would have even thought to ask. So it's just great to hear like how the process was because we grew up watching this and we had no idea how the sauce was made. So it's really cool. And I think our listeners love that kind of stuff, getting the
okay, good.
insights.
Yeah, they were I mean I haven't talked to them recently, but I know there is things in the works to get all the movies and all their television shows and everything streamed. So that's well into the works. So let's hope that happens. But they were really just regular kids and not affected. And it was a very, very smart machine that put the whole thing together because they knew that they influenced people and so they always made sure and from the writing standpoint that the message was really solid and appropriate and the girls were always very open to what was going on. Sometimes they'd have some opinions on how certain things were done, but and they were always open to having fun. There was the first one I did was Holiday in the Sun, and I don't know if I mean I guess you guys have watched it. I don't know who's watching it, but there was a scene where, and this was an idea that I stole from Saturday Night Live, where there's a scene where there's a blender, and this is a this, there was a scene in Saturday Night Live where they had this thing called the Bassomatic, and I don't know if you guys probably don't remember it, but they put a whole bass in a blender, and then they blend it, and then and then they pour it and they drink it and they, wow, that was great bass. And it's a whole funny thing on Saturday Night Live. So I set the girls up to do this, and they didn't know that this was like a real thing. And so we put like a real, they were supposed to be cooking or something, and they were going to have this blender, and we put a real fish in there. And then they turned it on and they flipped out. And that was one of the things that was good, to surprise them and to have them just go along with stuff. And also that on that one, that was, what's her name? I forget. You'll have to edit this out.
Megan
The
Fox.
Megan Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and she was cast perfect for that, to kind of be the bad girl. But there's a scene where they're in a nightclub. I don't know how much you guys remember this, but you know, there's a scene where there's a nightclub and there's a band playing up in this thing, and Megan comes in, and there's sort of her love interest is across the club, and we didn't really know what to have her say. And so this is a throwback to the Prince story, where one of the things that he would always say, if he liked something, he'd say, "That's what time it is." Like, it could apply to anything. It's like, here's a cup of coffee. That's what time it is. I mean, that was, and so when you're around, when you're around people, you just start talking like them, and you start
Yeah.
going, well, you know what? These AirPods, that's what time it is. So everything becomes, that's what time it is. So I had gone right from doing these Prince things, and so now I'm Mary Kate and Ashley. Megan comes in and she sees this guy, and we needed her to say something like, not like, "Oh, he's cute," and I thought, well, he's what time it is. So she just so she walks in, and at the time it seemed very natural to me, like, well, we get it. He's what time it is.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, I'm not sure anybody really understands what that means. And only if you're like in this, but maybe people got it. But it was like, there's just,
Oh, we
I don't
got
know,
it.
maybe
And
think
it
Yeah.
was iconic.
but it's like he's what time it is. And I'm like going, I don't know if she would have really said that, but she's saying it because we recorded it, we shot it. So anyway.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think those are like the nuances of movies where it just makes it really personal. And those are the things that carry on and people quote for decades later,
Yeah.
is those things are kind of just thrown in there sometimes.
Yeah. I love knowing that that came from Prince. That makes that character, the movie, even more like
Well,
amazing.
I love the fact that you even remember it. I can't, I mean, but that's one of the things that does happen, is because you have writers writing a script, and then you have actors, and then you might do table reads where everybody kind of comes together, and you kind of get a sense of what it's going to sound like when it kind of gets on its feet. But then you're in a situation where now you got this band playing and you're in a club, and there's the guy and there's Megan and all that stuff. And a lot of times it doesn't work, or it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. There was another scene in A Holiday in the Sun, and I forget, the dialogue was written. The dialogue was written that they were going to be at night. She and I think it was Mary Kate and her love interest were going to be there at night, like on a bridge, and they were going to be talking about, wow, look, we can see the moon and we can see the stars and we can see all this stuff. Well, something happened. We had rain issues or whatever, so we had to shoot it during the day.
Mm.
So same scene, same location, only now it's daytime and you can't be seeing the stars. So it's
Right.
like there's a lot of times where you have to just improvise and go like, okay, well, this doesn't make
Yep.
sense because
Yeah.
and so or you're running behind, or there's all these constraints that it's like, okay, you have to make your day. You have X number of days, and it's tough. You have X number of days, say 20 days or whatever it is, to shoot a certain amount of material. So it's all been broken down like math, like, okay, well, you have to do 7 pages a day. If you do 7 pages a day and all this stuff, you'll finish in time. But there's a lot to, but the girls were great about it, and everybody would just kind of move forward as a team. And but it's a process with a lot of people getting all to work together in lockstep.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Well, the Olsen twins movies had their own unique visual style with the bright colors, quirky editing, aspirational locations even. So was there a specific vision or aesthetic that you brought to these films that you shot with them?
Well, one of the things that at least I do, going back to being an editor and then starting to direct, is there's certain things that work or you feel that work, and you kind of end up, excuse me, having a visual style. And one of the reasons that I was brought on because I had done music videos and also had edited a lot. So you have a bag of tricks. And one of the things that, like, even in Holiday in the Sun, we did time lapse stuff of the hotel and would edit things kind of like a music video and would shoot things kind of more like a music video so that it would be more appealing to their audience. And that was part of the idea is their audience, they were getting older, their audience was getting older with them. And so the style of production and the way things were shot had to get moved up as well. The wardrobe was extremely important in these things because there was a tie-in with Walmart, and so there would be what they wore. Typically, as the director, you get very involved in what the actors wear.
Mhm.
This I would be to a degree, but there was a whole machine behind that because
Right.
they had a big thing with Walmart. And so there were times when we would shoot something and then their stylist Judy would come back and go, "Oh, you got to reshoot that." And it's like, it was fine. Well, they were wearing the wrong sunglasses, but it was
Oh.
because those sunglasses were then going to be seen at Christmas time in Walmart or wherever it was, and
Uh,
it was a really, Robert Thorne, who is their manager, was their manager, and I guess still is, and he did a brilliant job in creating this empire off these two girls. And it was really about shooting the movies. We would do a movie. There was a movie done every 6 months, basically. And so it would be, you would, and because financially it made sense and what the movies cost and what they made, it was just, it became a machine. And there was an audience for it and an appetite for it. So when we would finish Holiday in the Sun, then we were already talking about getting there, which would be 6 months later. And when we were finishing up getting there, then we would start talking about When in Rome. And there's actually a scene at the end of Holiday in the Sun where it's as though the movie ended, and then I'm actually in it, and then we wanted some device to sort of get us to the next film. And
mhm.
so it's like the movie ends, and then I say cut, and I'm in it, and then they throw this dart, which kind of is going to land on a map, which is going to send us to where the next one's going to be and stuff like that. So there was always something in the pipeline going forward because it was a business, and it was a thriving business.
Did you have input? So, like, one of the thing, like, in the Sun is probably the most popular I would say, it's not just in my opinion, but that one of the most popular Olsen twin movies. Besides, It Takes Two. I think New York Minute was like an actual feature, but I just
Mhm.
feel like when people talk about that movie, it's the most iconic. I don't know. But one of the parts about it was the locale at being in Atlantis. And at the time, I don't even think like everyone goes to Atlantis now, but I think it was kind of like new when that happened. So them going on different locales, did you pick or did you have any input of like saying, hey, let's do When in Rome and like let's do Italy next? Or was that something the girls brought to the table? Or like them
Well,
shooting
I
in
mean,
Atlantis, was that
one of the
something?
things, one of the things about the locations, especially the Atlantis, is again, I come in as the creative, as sort of the director guy, but there is a big business behind all of it,
Mm,
and so there was the timing of doing that film and having it come out around Christmas time, and I know that there was our whole crew stayed at the Atlantis, and I think it may have all been free. because it becomes a big commercial. Because what happens is you do a movie like Holiday in the Sun at the Atlantis, it comes out at Christmas time, and guess what? All those girls want to go there in the summer, and
Yeah.
so that happens, and that happens. That would happen time and time again. I would do Disney theme park specials. Same
Right.
thing. They would come out around Christmas time, and then everybody would go to Orlando or Tokyo Disneyland or whatever in the summer based on, oh, it was the Backstreet Boys at Disney World, and it came out in December, and then everybody goes in July. So that was a big part of it. Obviously, the getting there was originally called Sweet 16 Learning to Drive.
Mm.
And it was a road trip, and we shot up in Colorado, shot in Vegas, we shot all over the place. And so there really wasn't a location specific to that one. And I think part of it was this machine was going, and we're like, we needed to do another film. And so that was the idea. And then we kind of figured that one out along the way.
Mm.
But then I don't know what the upside to Rome was other than everybody wanted to go. There was no, I mean, Atlantis, I got that one because we got free rooms and they put that deal together. But Rome was like, sure, that sounds great. Let's go to Rome.
One of the other things about Holiday in the Sun was the use of the Weezer song. Did
Right.
you expect that to blow up as much as it did?
Again, that was picked by Robert Thorne, their manager. And again, it's not like you're doing a typical movie because it was a business. They
Right.
were a business, and their clothes were a business. And having that song in the film was a business decision. It was appropriate for the film, but I'd like to take credit for all the creative stuff that happens, but I really, there's a lot, really the creativity part of it is being saddled with a lot of things that you have to work in somehow and
Gotcha.
try to make them all work together so that it feels like you like that it has an audience, and everyone who thought the song was important, and it was great, but there's always a method to the madness behind that stuff.
That makes
So
sense. I mean, obviously, as you were filming this, it was the height of the Olsen twins' popularity. But at the time, did you really see that or envision that these movies were going to be such a cultural impact even years later? Like that people are still hunting down, trying to find these movies, talking about these movies, and talking about the impact they made. Like, does that still
um,
surprise you?
yeah, very much so. And so, I mean, at the time, as I think anything that we all do, you're kind of in the middle of it as you guys are doing this podcast, and it's day to day, and it's a business, and you do it. And that I knew they were popular, and it was a thrill to be working with them and work on the films. But the fact that there's this resurgence, and I hear about this and have over the last 4 or 5 years, that people know these films, they know the scenes, they know them in some respects better than I know them. It's very strange. I mean, the whole reason that I'm even talking with you guys, and that Gloria had done this video of their wedding and stuff like that, and to have 85,000 people looking at it, what she did, and I'm like, what? I don't really. The other thing is that in my career, I mean, I've done a lot of different. I mean, a lot of everything from documentaries to commercials and at the time they're all kind of the same. It's a job and you're doing it, but to be able to look back on certain things and go and have perspective on it and say that, you know what, that was pretty that was pretty remarkable what that thing did 15 years ago, 20 years ago, or
Mhm.
whatever. And when you're in the middle of it, you kind of feel like, okay, well, this is good, this is worthwhile, or we're doing a good job. But no, it's pretty amazing the response that those films have had, and the fact that we're even talking about it today is kind of
Right.
surprising to me. But it's great. It's great, and it's also great that it's like I was saying before, that it feels like one of the big streaming services is going to pick up the entire catalog, and so it'll be available.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah. So, what's something surprising about working with the girls that people don't typically know or understand about the process working with them.
Well, really working with them, typically, as I mentioned earlier, they when you're working with certain artists, they have a very clear vision of who they want to be. If it's a Prince, if it's Atlantis, they have a vision of who they want to be. Mary-Kate and Ashley were about as regular. They were the same people that you would see in these movies and these television shows. And so there wasn't this, at least from their standpoint, this agenda to be, I've got
Mhm.
to be this certain person. I have to be that certain person. It was really they were just fun to work with and easy to work with. Didn't make a lot of requests, were very they understood that everybody had a job to do and they were great to work with and it's important because you spend a lot of time together
Yeah.
and I don't know how much older I am than them, but it was almost like they were my kids in
Yeah.
some respect. I mean, they were like the same age as we have three boys, and it's you could have fun with them, and it was kind of like I want to say like that I was a father figure in any way, but it was but you look out for them, you take care of them, you want the best for them, and you want to protect them, and you want them to do a good job. So you're but very easy to work with. There's no like secret stories of like, well,
Right.
Mary Kate was really like she was
No.
this person on screen, but behind closed doors, she was yeah, they were who they were. And I think that that was part of the appeal is that they were very genuine.
Hmm.
And they weren't really playing a role. They were
Yeah.
having fun and all the movies were fun and I think it came across on screen and I think they ended up being a good role model for other girls of similar age as
Hmm.
Yeah.
they got older, their audience got older with them. And then when they turned 18, it was kind of like everybody just started going their own directions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's always nice. They always seem so grounded.
Hmm.
Well, like you said, you've worked on so many different mediums and with so many different artists. Was there ever a dream artist or project that you really wanted to work on or you didn't get to work on but wish you had?
so when I went from editing to directing, and I was directing and a lot of the music videos, big music videos, I would edit them and there would be a big commercial director that would direct them. There was a director, Bob Giraldi, who was a big director, did like big Michael Jackson, Beat It, all that stuff. Anyway, he was going to do a music video with Paul McCartney. And so what they would do is the production company would say, okay, the music video is going to cost whatever it's going to cost, but why don't we do a behind the scenes on it? And if we do a behind the scenes on it, there's an audience for that. And so that was really my first opportunity to really direct something. And I got this phone call and they said, what we want to do is we're going to do this Paul McCartney video and we want to do behind the scenes on it and you're going to be editing it. So why don't you direct it? So that to me at the time was a huge thing for me. I mean, I was like 28 years old, and so I get picked up, and we were going to shoot the music video in just south of Tucson, and I went and I spent a week with Paul McCartney. And for me at the time, that was an amazing thing for me to spend that time with him. It was amazing to kind of get to know him and see that he's a very genuine, real person and he would have fun. And Linda was still around and his kids were there. We'd play frisbee at lunch, we'd just hang out
Aw.
and just really to see that you can be a person like that who's had that much exposure and be known worldwide and really be a good person and really be fun. And that was a big thing for me because it's not everybody's that way. And you as you start going through and you start meeting more and more people, he is, at least at that time, and I've worked with him several times over the years, he's always been a really great person. So then sometimes you work with people that are really difficult and you start feeling like, well, wait a second. If Paul McCartney can be an easy guy to work with, I'm not really sure you should be difficult, whoever that might
Yeah.
be.
Right.
And so that was something that was a big moment. And sort of my takeaway is that all these people you work with, we're all kind of doing the same thing. Some people might be cameramen, some people might be comedians, some people might be singers or whatever, but we all kind of come into this business with aspirations to do something that you don't learn in school, that you maybe started feeling like you wanted to do when you were a kid. And we all kind of go on these strange journeys that then bring us all together. And some people are in front of the camera, some people are behind, but it's an interesting business in that it's not cookie cutter. It's not something that you figure out your path. And you guys are doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years ago, if someone had talked to you and said, you're going to be doing this thing called a podcast, you'd go, I'm not really sure I know what that is, but you figure it out. You
Yeah,
figure it out and you
Definitely.
do it, and it's going to go as far as it should go. And it may go big, it may take you on different paths. And so that's kind of what this business has been about for me. And it's been very rewarding. And I feel blessed to have been able to make a living doing something creative.
yeah.
I mean, that's,
Absolutely.
you think about it's tough and anyway.
No, we feel the same way. Like,
Yeah.
even just doing the podcast is a passion project. So being able to meet all these extraordinary creatives, just even hearing you talk about your experience, I know definitely made us very excited. And I'm sure every person who listens especially if they're creative, are going to feel like, okay, I am doing something right. I'm on the right path,
Yeah.
because pretty much everybody we've interviewed kind of has the same sentiment, which is, you get on this path, if you have to be flexible, you have to be able to kind of move with the business and still have that, your creativity being able to shine through. So it's been really cool to hear all that. And all the
Yeah, and
people you
it's
work with, it's amazing.
well, and they all at their core, we're all really kind of the same, and we're
Yeah.
all trying to figure something out. And when you work with people who've been around a long time, I spent about 3 years working with Johnny Carson when he went off the air. And same thing. He was a guy from Nebraska and had a vision and had skill set. But at his core, he was a very simple guy. He was not the guy. He was a very quiet guy. But had vision and direction. And sort of, if you do that and you stick to what you want to do, there's going to be twists and turns, and there may be some setbacks, but if you believe and you have a certain passion and skill for something, you can pursue it in this business. And for the most, and you will be there. There used to be this saying, it was called the Peter Principle. And the Peter Principle was, you rise to your level of incompetence, whatever that might be. And you might
Yeah.
be Paul McCartney, and then that's as far as you go.
Right.
But being around people that are all sort of like-minded, all heading down a path, just like you guys are heading down a path, and you don't know how far it's going to go, but
Right.
it's gone this far, and then it may go farther. And that's one of the things that I think is really good about the business, is that you can go as far as you go. You guys are going to go as far as you go. And you guys meet and you work at a home video store, and now you're doing a podcast, and who knows where it's going to go, which is pretty exciting for all of us to be able to have those opportunities to take our careers as far as we can take them.
Anything is possible. Dream your biggest dream, and you can get there if you have
Yeah.
a good crew
Drive.
around you.
Yeah.
But Steve,
Yeah.
honestly, we appreciate you so much. Like, we're
Yes.
so thankful that you took the time to talk to us. We loved hearing your stories and picking your brain, and we know our audience is going to really enjoy this episode. So thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Well, I was happy to do it. Glad to meet you guys, and good luck in the future
Oh,
with
thank
Yeah,
all
you so
yeah.
these.
much.
Well, tell
Absolutely.
Gloria thank you,
Yes.
Okay.
because we got to meet you because of her. So
Okay.
really
I will
appreciate
do.
that.
Okay. Great. Thanks,
Well,
guys.
thank you
Thank
for
Appreciate
our
it.
you.
listeners. You know the drill. Stream Holiday in the Sun, rewatch that Atlantis Unplugged session. And if you need your Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen fix, don't forget to check out our Lips Are Sealed and When in Rome double feature with our pals from the Movies That Raised Us podcast. And remember, be kind and rewind.